Sigma males reach a point in life where words start to feel useless, not because they've run out of things to say, but because they've realized that most people listen to reply, not to understand. Explaining yourself to the wrong crowd is like trying to teach depth to someone who only skims the surface. So when a Sigma male stops explaining, it isn't arrogance, it's evolution. He's done justifying his silence, his boundaries, his absence. He's tired of people mistaking his calm for confusion and his restraint for weakness. What they don't realize is that his silence isn't emptiness, it's strategy. It's how he levels up, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The less he explains, the more he observes. The more he observes, the more powerful he becomes. This video dives deep into the psychological transformation that happens when a Sigma male stops trying to prove himself and starts building in silence. If you're someone who's ever been misunderstood for your peace, your distance, or your discipline, this one's for you. Before we begin, take a second to subscribe to UltraWise. Most of you watching right now haven't joined yet, but this is your sign. This channel is for the quiet builders, the thinkers, the ones who outgrow noise and rise through silence. And when you reach the end of this video, drop this phrase in the comments. Silence is my elevation. Because once you understand that, you stop explaining and start becoming. They realize understanding is a choice, not a requirement. Sigma males eventually learn one of the hardest but most liberating truths. You can't teach people to understand you, no matter how clearly you speak, how deeply you explain, or how patiently you break yourself down into pieces for others to grasp. Most people will only see what they want to see. They'll filter your truth through their own insecurities, fears, and projections. At first, the Sigma tries not out of ego, but out of sincerity. He explains his silence, his distance, his boundaries. He believes that if people could just understand his intentions, they would meet him halfway. But every time he opens up, he's reminded that some people don't listen to learn, they listen to judge. So he stops, not out of defeat, but out of self-respect. He understands that true understanding doesn't need to be demanded or defended. It's freely given by those who have the emotional maturity to recognize depth. The Sigma male begins to detach from the need to be validated, realizing that explaining himself to shallow minds only waters down his essence. The fewer explanations he gives, the clearer his peace becomes. And something shifts. Instead of trying to make people understand, he starts observing who tries to. He pays attention to actions, not reactions. He becomes more selective with his words, conserving energy for people who have earned access to his truth. His silence stops being awkward. It becomes powerful. It commands curiosity. It separates those who seek connection from those who crave control. In a world obsessed with attention and approval, the Sigma's refusal to explain himself becomes his rebellion. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. He no longer needs to convince anyone of his worth because his life starts speaking for him. His progress, his peace, and his focus become the loudest explanations of all, and they don't require a single word. Silence becomes their strongest response. There comes a point when the Sigma male realizes that silence can achieve what words never could. Every argument, every attempt to defend his character, every emotional explanation he once gave only drained him, because deep down, he knew that people hear what aligns with their ego, not their empathy. So he stops feeding the noise. He learns that silence isn't weakness. It's the highest form of emotional intelligence. It's the moment he decides to protect his energy rather than waste it on trying to fix misunderstanding. His silence begins to unsettle people. The ones who thrived on his reaction start to panic when there's nothing left to provoke. The manipulator loses control. The gossip loses an audience. The critic loses power. Silence turns into a mirror, reflecting people's true intentions right back at them. The Sigma doesn't need to prove who he is. His absence does that for him. In a world obsessed with constant noise and validation, his restraint becomes rare, almost intimidating. People start wondering what he's thinking, what he knows, and why he doesn't react. That curiosity becomes his quiet dominance. Through silence, the Sigma male gains perspective. He starts seeing people for who they are when he no longer gives them emotional access. He realizes that stillness sharpens perception, that the quiet moments reveal more truth than 1,000 conversations ever could. While others seek validation through arguments, the Sigma finds clarity through detachment. His silence isn't avoidance, it's observation. He's not running from confrontation, he's rising above the need for it. Over time, silence becomes his power language, a tool sharper than any retort, calmer than any comeback. It confuses the insecure, intrigues the intelligent, and protects the Sigma's inner world from being invaded. The beauty of his silence lies in its strength. It says everything without saying a word. It commands respect without demanding attention. And it teaches him the most profound lesson of all, that peace is louder than chaos, and stillness is often the most powerful statement a man can make. Energy speaks louder than explanation. A Sigma male eventually realizes that his energy says more than his words ever could. He no longer wastes breath explaining his intentions, defending his silence, or proving his worth. He understands that everything about him, the way he walks into a room, the calmness in his tone, the stillness in his eyes, communicates volumes. People feel his presence before he even speaks. His energy tells his story. It carries the weight of his discipline, the depth of his experiences, and the quiet confidence of someone who doesn't need to be understood to be powerful. When he interacts with others, the Sigma's energy becomes his filter. He starts noticing how people respond to it. The ones who respect it stay grounded, while the ones who are threatened by it get defensive. He doesn't need to argue or assert dominance. His focus, his control, and his emotional steadiness do that effortlessly. Every time he chooses peace over reaction, every time he walks away instead of explaining, his energy sends a message louder than any speech ever could. I'm not here to compete. I'm here to evolve. That shift changes everything. His energy becomes magnetic, not because he's loud or charming, but because he's consistent. He's the man who doesn't chase, doesn't justify, and doesn't over-explain. His stability in a chaotic world makes others gravitate toward him, even when they can't understand why. Some admire it, others resent it, but everyone feels it. His presence alone becomes a silent statement of confidence, the kind that doesn't demand attention but commands it naturally. The Sigma learns that when words stop being necessary, energy takes the lead. It reveals truth faster than logic and intention faster than conversation. While others try to talk their way into being understood, he simply is. His actions align with his words. His calm matches his confidence, and his detachment amplifies his strength. In the end, people don't remember what he said, they remember how he made them feel. That's the quiet dominance of a Sigma male. His energy lingers, even in his absence. It speaks for him, defends him, and defines him, without needing a single explanation. They learn that clarity doesn't need validation. The Sigma male reaches a stage where he no longer needs anyone to agree with him for his truth to stand. He's been through enough misunderstandings, false accusations, and emotional misinterpretations to realize that most people don't want clarity, they want comfort. They don't want to hear what's real. They want reassurance that their illusions are safe. So he stops seeking validation from the crowd. He stops explaining his logic to those who listen only to argue. Instead, he begins to live in quiet alignment with his own clarity. Firm, grounded, and immovable. He understands now that clarity is an inside job. It comes not from convincing others, but from trusting his own perception. He no longer needs to justify his choices, because he knows exactly why he made them. He's seen how quickly people change their opinions, how loyalty can turn to gossip, and how truth can be twisted when it doesn't serve someone's ego. So he detaches, not from people, but from the need to be seen through their lens. His clarity becomes his compass, invisible to the world, but unshakable within him. So the Sigma male's silence begins to confuse those who once had power over him. They used to control him through guilt or manipulation, but now nothing sticks. His peace is no longer negotiable. He doesn't argue to prove who's right or wrong, he simply knows, and that's enough. That's the kind of confidence that unnerves people. The quiet, unspoken certainty that doesn't beg to be understood. His focus shifts from being heard to being effective. While others waste energy trying to be validated, the Sigma refines his purpose, elevates his habits, and sharpens his awareness. The fewer opinions he listens to, the clearer his direction becomes. The world starts to notice, not because he's louder, but because he's laser-focused. His results start to speak for him. True clarity doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It doesn't explain itself endlessly. It moves with certainty, and that's what makes the Sigma unshakable. He's not cold, he's clear. And in that clarity, he finds something deeper than approval: peace. Observation replaces justification. At some point, the Sigma male realizes that most people don't actually want an explanation. They want a reaction. They push buttons, twist meanings, and misinterpret intentions, not to understand him, but to control the narrative. That's when something inside him shifts. He stops explaining, defending, or correcting. Instead, he starts watching. Observation becomes his new power. Calm, silent, and surgical. He studies tone more than words, motives more than actions, and patterns more than promises. His emotional intelligence evolves into quiet strategy. The Sigma male learns that when you observe instead of justify, people reveal themselves faster. Their words contradict their energy, their actions expose their truth, and their reactions confirm their intent. He no longer needs to argue. He just listens deeply. He sees who deflects accountability, who thrives on chaos, and who genuinely operates from honesty. He lets people talk, because he knows the more they speak, the clearer their masks become. Observation gives him control, not through manipulation, but through awareness. It's a different kind of power, one built on restraint. The Sigma knows that silence makes others uncomfortable because it removes the noise they use to hide behind. When he no longer takes the bait, their games collapse. They expect his explanations, but he gives them stillness. They expect his emotion, but he gives them a calm stare that says everything without a word. That's when people start realizing how dangerous a grounded man truly is. One who doesn't chase validation or lose composure. Through observation, the Sigma reclaims his peace. He understands that not everything needs to be clarified, and not every misunderstanding deserves attention. Most of the time, people will twist truth until it fits their insecurity. But when you observe, you conserve energy. And with that energy, you build, evolve, and win quietly. This Sigma male no longer justifies his presence or his choices. He lets time and results speak on his behalf, because when you're truly self-awareness, explanations become unnecessary, and silence becomes the loudest proof of strength. They outgrow the need to be seen or approved. Eventually, the Sigma male reaches a point where external validation loses its appeal entirely. He's no longer fueled by attention or drained by its absence. The praise that once motivated him now feels shallow, and the criticism that once wounded him barely grazes the surface. He's seen both: admiration that fades when you stop pleasing people, and judgment that comes simply for existing differently. And through it all, he learns one thing: peace is worth more than approval. The Sigma male realizes that the need to be seen was just another trap, a subtle way to hand control to others. Every time he sought to be understood, he gave away pieces of his authenticity. Every time he over-explained, he diluted his strength. But now, he no longer performs for recognition. He operates in silence, guided by purpose rather than applause. His validation comes from within, from his ability to stay grounded, keep his integrity, and move with clarity even when no one's watching. People begin to notice the change. He doesn't seek compliments, yet his confidence feels magnetic. He doesn't fight for the spotlight, yet his presence commands it naturally. That's the paradox of the Sigma. When he stops caring about being seen, the world suddenly can't look away. He's detached, but not distant, humble, but not submissive. His self-assurance comes from mastery, not ego, from knowing who he is even when no one affirms it. The freedom that follows is unmatched. Without the pressure to please, the Sigma operates at full capacity. He creates, decides, and lives on his own terms. His worth is no longer up for debate, it's simply known. He stops explaining his choices, his boundaries, and his path, because his results and peace speak louder than approval ever could. This is the quiet revolution of the Sigma male. He no longer seeks to be seen by the world because he sees himself clearly. He no longer chases belonging because he belongs wherever he stands. And in that realization lies his true power, not to impress, but to inspire through presence, purpose, and unshakable self-awareness. Action becomes their new language. When words lose their meaning, the Sigma male turns to movement. He's learned that explanations rarely change minds, only results do. The endless cycle of talking, defending, and clarifying exhausts him, so he stops feeding it. Instead, he channels that energy into quiet execution. While others argue theories, he's already building outcomes. While they debate his intentions, he's already proving his capability through consistency. For the Sigma, action becomes the purest, most undeniable form of truth. He understands that action doesn't require permission. It doesn't need applause or understanding. It simply is. And when done with discipline and purpose, it silences everything else: the noise, the opinions, the underestimation. His results start speaking for him in ways words never could. He no longer explains what he's doing. People start asking how he did it. That's the shift. From talker to mover, from misunderstood to undeniable. This shift also changes the people around him. Those who once doubted him begin to pay attention. Those who underestimated him feel the weight of their mistake. But by then, the Sigma has already moved on. He doesn't do it to prove anyone wrong. He does it because he's done wasting energy explaining what he already knows he's capable of. The satisfaction doesn't come from recognition. It comes from mastery. Action becomes his language of transformation. Every choice, every project, every boundary becomes a message. I don't talk about growth. I live it. His silence becomes more powerful than confrontation, and his achievements become his vocabulary. He doesn't explain his evolution, he embodies it. And that's what makes him unstoppable. Because once a Sigma male replaces words with results, he becomes untouchable. No gossip, No misunderstanding, no judgment can compete with the undeniable evidence of progress. His focus turns inward, his movement becomes sacred, and his peace, his loudest statement. By the time people realize why people behaving correctly, but the kind that comes from absolute inner control, peace becomes his rebellion, his statement, and his final evolution. It's what happens when he stops defending himself, stops chasing clarity, and stops fighting for space in other people's chaos. Instead, he builds an inner world so stable that nothing external can shake it. The Sigma male learns that peace isn't passive, it's strategic. It's the calm of someone who's seen manipulation, betrayal, and noise, yet refuses to be dragged into it again. People who once thrived on his reactions start realizing they can't reach him anymore. Their drama feels small in the presence of his silence. His peace becomes unsettling, a mirror reflecting the instability of others. That's when they begin to understand they never had control over him. They only had control over his attention. And now, even that is gone. In his peace, the Sigma operates like a force of nature, calm but undeniable. He builds without announcement, forgives without reconnection, and walks away without bitterness. He's not detached out of apathy, but out of mastery. He knows that peace is the ultimate flex in a world addicted to validation and noise. It's the mark of someone who's transcended ego wars, emotional traps, and the constant need to prove worth. People will say he's changed, and they're right, but what they don't realize is that he hasn't become colder. He's become freer. The Sigma's peace is his armor, his compass, and his superpower. It allows him to see clearly, act intentionally, and love selectively. No outburst, no revenge, no explanation, just the steady silence of a man who's completely in control of himself. And that's why peace isn't weakness, it's dominance, refined. It's the Sigma's way of saying you can't disturb what you no longer influence. His calm becomes louder than confrontation, his restraint more intimidating than rage. In a world where everyone reacts, he stands still. And that stillness shakes everything. When a Sigma male stops explaining, reacting, or chasing, he steps into a level of peace that most people can't even comprehend. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. He's no longer trying to be understood. He's too focused on understanding himself. That's where the real evolution begins. When silence becomes clarity, peace becomes power, and movement replaces approval. If you've ever reached that point, the moment you stop needing to prove yourself and just started being, you already know how different the world starts to look. That's the Sigma transformation, quiet, consistent, and unstoppable. Before you go, if this video resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and help UltraWise reach 1,000 subscribers this month. Every single one of you who stays until the end is part of something real. Something that's not about hype, but about growth. And here's a question for you to drop in the comments. Have you ever outgrown the need to explain yourself? And notice how everything changed after that? Your story might inspire someone who's still trying to find their peace.